But you look at nonpartisan studies, and she's one of the least effective members of Congress. It's 435 members we're talking about.
Now, if Sandy Cortez was your 13-year-old daughter, and she sounds like it, you would tell her to, quote, calm down. Stop being hysterical. Oh, yeah, Sandy Cortez could die.
This is otherwise known as the Jussie Smollett effect.
So she's all icing and no cake, and all sizzle and no steak.
It just reeks of her naivety. I don't want to be lectured by a 32-year-old on what she thinks will and won't happen, to your point.
Again, the vice president, why isn't she celebrating and recognizing that? Because it's not her.
Grow up. You know, grow up. You're a member of Congress.
So she's all foam and no beer at this point. But, you know, she's the voice of the far, far left, and it's going to sell magazines to GQ, which isn't the GQ you grew up with anymore. It's a political magazine like everything else, it seems.
AOC recently did a feature piece for GQ magazine where she talked about her career, misogyny, and more. And Fox News, they gave an incredibly predictable response.
So she's oppressed. Internally anyway, but she's on the cover of GQ this month. How oppressed is Sandy Cortez? Well, she's on the cover of GQ right now. That's how oppressed. You're seeing that cover on your screen at the moment. And you're literally named after a conquistador, Cortez. And you're telling everyone you're an oppressed racial minority? They're like, oh, yes, you are. White girl with the conquistador's name was an oppressed Latina. And apparently she believed it. And she's been talking about it and running on it ever since.
This is the defining trait of the liberals, the Democratic Party, the media, of course, which is claiming victimhood, claiming to be aggrieved, claiming to be oppressed, always on account of sex, gender, sexual identity. That's why we have so many fake hate crime hoaxes, people that want attention. This is how they get it.
Men who dive into their compassion, into their sadness, into their insecurity, and explore it and work through it. So guys, AOC is looking for someone sad and insecure, who just wants to sit around and talk about his feelings. And to be honest, if I were a fiance, I really wouldn't love this little interview she did.
Look, do you know how many legislative accomplishments AOC has since she joined Congress 4 years ago? It's the same number you get when you multiply something by 0.
Her colleagues across the aisle. If she's that much of a champion of women's rights and women's positions, then you would think she would be generous and humble enough to celebrate everyone's elevated position rather than just complaining about the lack of her future one.
Probably, yeah. Well, she's great on Instagram and Twitter and snark, so that's what gets you magazine profiles these days.
No foam in that beer.
All foam, no beer.
There he is.
If we're getting attacked by Fox News, I can often tell what the monologue was the night before, because they send so many vicious people calling us, repeating the same exact phrases. And so what happens is that you get all of these people who are kind of like really brainwashed by tele-racists and just like kind of saying these lies on Fox. And then what happens is that they call our office and literally repeat phrases from the monologue from the night before. And it happens like so often, it's kind of like drones. It's really kind of weird.